definitely have a lot of experience in a range of parking solutions, aside from just our core product, which I'll be sharing with all of you today. My colleague, Lizzie Berger, who is in the room with me, will be fielding some questions. So if anything comes up as we go, please feel free to chat about it in the group, and anything else I could also answer at the end of this presentation. So before we kick off, let's talk about cameras in general. They're in a lot of obvious places that we use every day. They're on the front and back of your smartphone, the front and back of your laptop, maybe all over your apartment complex or your house in regards to security, but there's also a fair amount of areas where cameras are used that are a little harder to see. In the retail world, when you check out at the grocery store, in your car, maybe when you're parallel parking into a space, in healthcare, when you're conducting any sort of test, or even in the industrial world when you're scanning boxes. So it's only natural that cameras would become really to take some shape in regards to parking. But we're not here to talk about cameras today. We're here to talk about cameras in parking. And I couldn't do that without going through a bit of the evolution of parking technology in regards to guidance. The first ever technology to really come out there, really for the primary goal of offering level counts, was this inductive loop solution, which essentially any piece of metal runs over it and it senses, hey, there's a car here. So it was great on a level-by-level basis. It's still used in a variety of applications today, but that's all. It was pretty limited in terms of what it could do. So ultrasonic sensors, which are little red or green lights that typically go over every single space, were introduced in the 90s to offer not just a level count, but a space-by-space count. And that's actually where Park Assist got our start, with selling that type of technology. And it was great in terms of single-space guidance and customer experience. What our customers were saying, however, was, we love this piece of driving people to the available parking spaces, but we have other challenges that we're looking to address. What other types of guidance solutions could be introduced to address some of these challenges? So we got to thinking, and of course the cost of camera technology went down, as I mentioned, because now cameras truly are everywhere, and we were able to introduce the first ever camera-based parking guidance system back in 2010. We're now in our 4th generation, which you could see here. It's called the M4, and it's interesting for quite a few reasons. There's a camera on either side of the sensor, so each camera is looking at 2 parking spaces, meaning our sensors cover 4 spaces now with just one piece of technology. So much less hardwiring, as you could imagine, but the really exciting piece of this technology is the processor. And a little bit later in this presentation, we're going to talk about what these sensors can do, what that processor enables. But just to give you a sense of what the system looks like installed, as I mentioned, we're installed down the center of the drive lane as opposed to over each and every space. So you're still getting the red or green lights indicating if the space is vacant or occupied, but we're trying to create a bit more of a streamlined effect where instead of looking left and right, we're trying to prevent some of that visual clutter. So what functions are these cameras performing? We've been talking a lot about guidance and the detection piece. So red or green lights, absolutely. They're counting cars. But by using cameras, we can also do a couple other really interesting things, such as license plate recognition. And we'll talk about what that LPR affords again in just a bit when we get to the software piece, but also streaming video. So what's the purpose of these functions? Park Assist, in particular, is really looking to touch 4 primary boxes with our system. First and foremost, improve the customer experience, ideally introduce a new revenue stream, increase revenue at the parking facility if it's a paid parking environment, enhance security, but also from the operations side. We're trying to really create this perfect operation in the parking garage that might not be quite so apparent to the visitor. So what are these cameras doing in regards to guidance just by getting to the garage. If you have a smartphone app, for example, these cameras, by doing detection, can offer occupancy information before you even arrive on site. So maybe on your app, you want to convey to visitors, if you have especially multiple garages at one site, how many spaces are available in each garage. Then when you get to the garage on a garage-by-garage basis, or I'm sorry, when you get to the site on a garage-by-garage basis, and then at the actual garage on a level-by-level basis. Then to take it one step further, on an aisle basis, at every major decision point, we're offering you a sign. So maybe you can make a left, but there's only 5 spaces available. However, if you make that right, there's 100 spaces available. And then in the actual aisle, through the red or green lights, as we mentioned, doing that very basic parking guidance. So now's the fun part, where we really get to dive into what the software can do. Up until this point, we've really only been talking about the hardware. And the analogy I always use is a camera-based system can truly be a go-kart, or it can be a race car. It can offer you those red or green lights. It can drive visitors to the parking spaces. But with those cameras, we can also do a ton of software functionalities. The first of which is car locating, this find your car piece, which can be done in a variety of different ways. At Park Assist, we do have our own kiosks where you can essentially type in, you don't need to know your whole license plate number, 3 digits is just fine, and it gives you all of the options of cars that might be yours. You click which one's yours, and you're driven to exactly where your car is parked. This can also be done through a smartphone, by license plate. And the nice thing about a smartphone is once you type in your license plate number once, it auto-saves. But let's say, you're worried that your visitors won't remember their license plate information or what have you. There are a variety of other ways to search for your vehicle. One of those ways is by using the ticket you pull when you enter. And we'll talk about where else the integration with Parks comes into play. But also we're introducing a way to search for your vehicle based on make and model. So maybe you know that you drove a red car and you entered at 12 p.m. Now you could pull up all of the red cars that entered at 12 p.m. last Saturday. So we're really trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. The alerts feature is the second feature we'll discuss, which essentially allows you to define any and all policies within your garage on a space-by-space basis. So this can be especially useful really in a few different ways. Let's say your employees are taking the best 10% of spaces in your garage. They get there first, and typically they stay the longest. You can ensure that employees maybe only park on level 4 of your garage through our alerts feature. How it works is pretty simple. You upload a list of license plates, so again, maybe it's employees, maybe it's threat vehicles, maybe it's VIP vehicles, and anytime one of those vehicles either parks in an area it's not meant to park in, or alternatively just parks in a space and you want to know when they arrive, an email or a text notification would go out to the owner, the on-site operator. You can choose what email or phone number that alert goes out to, letting them know maybe someone's parked in the wrong space or entered the garage when they shouldn't have entered it. It's also nice for, alternatively, for VIPs. You want to know when your most loyal customers arrive. We actually have a site in the Northeast that was experiencing a fair amount of break-in. Someone was coming and checking for unlocked vehicles, and they were able to capture their license plate with our system. So the next time that vehicle entered the garage, an alert went out actually to the authorities, letting them know, this threat vehicle has entered the garage, and they were able to apprehend him on site. So obviously for security purposes, our alerts feature can definitely come in handy. Select rate. This is the feature that enables an integration with the Parks provider, and it works in a very simple way. You pull into the garage and you pull a ticket. Well, when you pull that ticket, an LPR camera is capturing your plate, then you go to park in your parking space, and now our camera is again capturing your plate, and they're able to match together. So now we know that the ticket that was pulled and now parked in a premium space should be charged the premium when they go to pay at the pay on foot machine. We typically recommend using signage in conjunction with this feature. And our lights on our sensors really can turn thousands of colors. So maybe you want to say, okay, yellow means premium spaces, or purple means premium spaces. And through signage, you'll communicate to visitors, if you park at a purple space, a $5 surcharge applies, and it's all automatic from that point forward. And if you have any questions on who we've integrated with in the past or anything on that end, please feel free to shoot me an email at the end of this, or we could talk about it offline. The surveillance piece is a big part of why we actually introduced our M4. We wanted to put the processor in such a place that we can continue to introduce really interesting and helpful software features down the road. So how our surveillance feature works is quite simple. It can be done in a couple of ways. We can either integrate with a video management system that's currently in place, or provide our own hardware to offer, all of these brand new streams of every parking space in the garage. What's also really nice about this feature is you're not getting any empty footage. It's only recording motion. Our cameras can do 15 frames per second, which is very clear. I think an iPhone is about 25 or 30 frames per second, so as you could imagine, almost really perfect without any empty footage. And now the fun stuff. So all of these features are really great and really helpful. And to be honest, the most interesting aspect of all of these features is that you can opt into them at any point. So maybe a year down the road, you have Park Assist installed, and now your site all of a sudden is experiencing all of these break-ins, and you want to opt into surveillance. You could always go ahead and enable it. But no matter what features you put in, you're always getting a very robust reporting platform. Our reporting platform is browser-based, so you can log into it from any computer. It's all password protected, so different people can have different levels of access to the reporting platform. And when you log in, you're given a really cool dashboard that gives you, all these different flexible widgets. Maybe they're communicating occupancy in the garage, dwell time, turnover, etc. But we're also giving you the ability to pull really specific reports to your operation. So for example, I'll just show you a couple different types of reports we can pull. One of them is a line graph that illustrates occupancy. So this one is showing you throughout the day, from the beginning of the day to the end, where you are in terms of occupancy by level. Whereas this report is showing you a heat map. Heat maps are interesting for a couple different reasons. Maybe in terms of maintenance, you want to know which spaces on which level of your garage are utilized the most to determine which areas need to be pressure washed. Maybe you're interested in opting into that premium pricing piece that we were just discussing. You could determine, hey, the spaces by the elevators on P3 seem to be really popular. We could probably charge a premium for those spaces. This report would allow you to access that information in real time. Plate info. So if you do opt into any of these different software features that enable license plate recognition, you can determine which plates enter the most frequently. This is specifically interesting to retail operations who want to know maybe who their most loyal visitors are. Maybe on your 10th visit, you want to offer a free coupon for coffee at the food court. Or alternatively, you just want to know, who's parking where most frequently. This report allows you to access that information. So just a quick case study. We have a client, or a shopping area, mixed use, and the issue was they have free parking and people were taking advantage of their 4-hour parking to go elsewhere. This particular shopping center is very close to a transit station. So people were parking there and going on their merry way, and it was causing a real problem for the operation. Of course, it was taking money away from the stores and also preventing the people who actually want to park to go shopping from having a space. So by using the Park Assist system, they were able to drastically reduce their abuse rate. They were at 30% abuse, and they did it Oh, there we go. Looks like we're back in action. Sorry, the webcam froze for a moment. But how they did it was very simple. So they gave you 3 warnings. So every time someone abused the limit, an alert would go out via text or email letting them know, this license plate is parked in this space and they've stayed past their limit. And on the 4th violation, they began towing cars. Well, needless to say, visitors learned very quickly and they were able to reduce their abuse rate to 3.7%. So just one example, that's really using nothing but our alerts feature to obviously improve the revenue situation at the shopping center, but also the customer experience. And just in regards to carbon emissions, I mean, we're very proud partners of the Green Parking Council. So what one of our clients did that was really very interesting, they had our system turned on during peak hours and turned off during peak hours, and they compared and contrasted the data. And what they found was with our system turned on, there was a 44% reduction in drive time to find a space. And through a lovely consultant, we were able to determine what that meant in regards to CO2 emissions. And it was 450,000 kilograms of CO2 saved, which amounted to 1 million miles driven. So very substantial just in regards to reducing drive time. And we're, of course, pretty passionate about what we can do on that end. So what are we looking for in the future? What are we trying to accomplish? As we mentioned, all of those different software features that we touched on could be opted into at any time. 2 years, 3 years down the road, we're constantly releasing new features. So while you're, of course, getting guidance, if that's all that's of interest at this point, you know that you're not limiting yourself down the road in regards to what you'll be able to get in the future. And also in terms of our reporting tool, in terms of this really robust reporting platform, one area that we're really looking towards is predictive reporting. So, all of these reports are great and interesting, but we want to tell you, this area might be particularly interesting to you. Maybe you could opt into a reservation system because you're finding that you're reaching capacity at a certain point of the day, every day. So now we're feeding you these reports. So tracking human behavior, we want to make sure that in the future we can integrate with in-mall communication systems. So we've got a whole lot up our sleeve that we're very excited about in the next year to come and looking forward. So if there are any questions at this point, I am happy to answer them. Okay, it looks like a question came in from the city of Whitefish regarding open air levels, so what we typically recommend. So at this point, we do, of course, for our guidance system, need a rooftop to mount our sensors. We do, however, have a variety of solutions for uncovered areas regarding open air roofs, but also surface lots. And I'll be happy to share that information with you via email. And it sounds like that's it, staff. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, if there are no further questions, thank you everyone for your time. My contact information is on the screen. I'd love to further the conversation. If there's any specific questions you may have, please feel free to give me a call, reach out to me over email, etc. Perfect. All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much. And if there's nothing else, talk to you all soon. Hope to see everyone at a conference.
All right, thank you everyone for joining this web event. I don't know if Lizzie Berger from ParkAssist still has some questions for Molly to answer at this point. If not, you can also always contact Molly at the email address you see in the screen. We hope you all enjoyed this web event, of course, and via parking-net.com you can also subscribe for next week's web event by CPI. So if there's no more questions at this point, if Lizzie has no more questions, then this was it. Thank you for joining.
All right. Thank you so much, Steph.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.